Good evening, all. Welcome. This is FMA Discussion, episode 117. And tonight, fortunately, we were running a little late. Apologies. We're waiting for Guru Viko to come on. But in the meantime, we have Brutal Manolo here. And tonight is going to be more theme oriented in that we're going to hear both these guys' views and in their interaction of cross training and all that. But we'll get a little background for those who maybe have not seen their previous episodes and might not be familiar with either one of them. So that's where we're going to start. And then hopefully Guru Viko is going to be joining us. And so let's go there. So welcome. Thank you for coming on, Guru.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dean.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pleasure.
No, I'm kind of excited because I think these theme episodes are going to be really, really interesting for people. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy doing the guest, and I always will do that. But I think these themes are going to have a place, you know, in these interviews. I think, you know what I mean. So, and I think it'll hopefully, people will cross some bridges too. You know what I mean. So, and that's kind of what we're going to focus on tonight is you guys crossing bridges, and folks that are listening. This is going to be kind of a KI, Colleagues kind of meeting Lightning Scientific. And that's kind of the lens we're going to go for. But while we're waiting for him, let's again, for those who maybe don't know much about you, or maybe know you but not sure about your background and all that. Why don't you give us the folks, just some of your your background, your FMA experience and all that.
Okay. I started FMA in the early 90s when I was still studying in the University of the Philippines. So my contemporaries are, if you're familiar with Nathan Dominguez and Professor Felipe Jocano, those are my contemporaries. Prior to that, I started martial arts when I was 11 with karate, Tang Sudo, the old school Tang Sudo, and I also delved into Taekwondo and Aikido and some Judo. And but my interest in the martial arts wasn't that much on the sport. It was more on what was practical, what I would deem to be something that you can use if you get attacked on the streets.
Okay.
And at that time, Master Elmer Ibanez, who was one of the longtime students of Master Mang Ben, started a group in the University of the Philippines. This is the Lescas group. At that time, he was taking classes at the University of the Philippines College of Human Kinetics. That's the physical education college of the University of the Philippines. And he was also developing a methodology that was based on what he was learning in the College of Human Kinetics. And that's basically Lescas, the Lescas group.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I was with him for 6 years. And then I moved back to Davao. Well, when we were studying, I think Professor Jocano already mentioned this. We didn't have ranks. It was just us students and our instructor, Master Elmer, right? So we weren't studying to get any ranks at that time. And right before, by the time, after I finished my schooling, I worked for a few years in Manila. And right before I came home, back to Davao, relocate back to Davao, this is where I grew up. Master Elmer took me to a corner and then gave me a couple of random shots just to see what my reaction would be. Something out of what he actually taught me, taught all of us, and then just said, "You're ready." And then a year later, he gave us a certificate. That's it.
Neat.
And when Master Elmer, relocated to the United States, through Nathan and the guys in Manila, we were able to get in touch with the old man himself as well. So We trained with the old man before he died. So me, I was based in Davao. Every time I'd be in Manila, I would visit them to train with them. And there was also a time when we brought the old man from Manila to Davao for a week because I wanted my students to experience training under him directly.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we would practically train from morning to evening. We'd start around 9 a.m. and we'd finish around 11 p.m.
Wow.
Because yeah, and it wasn't because we were pushing the old man. He didn't want to stop. If you didn't tell him to eat, he would forget to eat. That's just
Hmm.
him. We would ask
Not
him,
this.
Mang Ben, are
Wow.
you still okay? You wanna rest? And he said, no, 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 let's go on. I still have something. I still have a lot of things to show you, right? So after that, we got certified as well under Grandmaster Mang Ben, right? So we have these two lines. You have the Lescas methodology and training under the certification under the old man as well. So that's my background in FMA, but I also have experience in Balintawak um, under Master Rico Carino, who's based in Cagayan de Oro City. So this
Hmm.
was in the sometime around 2006 to 2007 because my work took me to Cagayan de Oro on a monthly basis. So every time I would be in Cagayan de Oro for a couple of days, I would actually train with Master Rico Carino. And the reason why I trained Balintawak was because the late Master Elmer Ibanez actually encouraged us. He had a tape of Grandmaster Tabuada, and
Okay.
they became friends in Seattle when Master Hufana. I don't know if you know Master Myrilino Hufana, who's based
That's
in.
a name I'm not familiar with.
He used to organize these events. I'm not sure if it was in Seattle area or in Vegas, where he would also have Grandmaster Tabuada there and Master Elmer. So they became good friends.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Master Elmer had the tape, one of the earlier tapes of Grandmaster Bobby. I think that was the instructional tape that he put out with Carmichael. I don't know if you remember that
I
the
know
top.
that name. I definitely know the Carmichael.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
yeah. And then Master Elmer was saying, this is one of the few um, instructors and styles that I see where there's real power because the emphasis in
Yeah.
our style was really power, right? So he said if you have an opportunity, I suggest you study
Okay.
this system. He was open about that.
Oh, that's
He
nice. That's
he
refreshing.
encouraged us. He encouraged us to um, look at other systems and other styles. Even
Mm.
BJJ. He had tapes of the Gracies. He had those early UFC tapes, the first one, the second one, the third one, and then he would show us. And then he bought the instructional tape of the Gracies, and he'd show us some of the practical applications of jiu-jitsu, and he would encourage us to try to incorporate it into what we already knew and what we did. So the general atmosphere learning was more like um it was like an experimental group. Everybody came
Mm.
in with what they knew, and then everybody would put it out there on the table and try what they had, and then just keep learning. So we had guys like Mon Rivera, who had a background. He was one of the highest ranked Huarang Do practitioners in the country that
Mm.
time. And he had the Lameco background. So
Oh.
I learned a
Okay.
few I learned a few things from him,
Okay.
and then we had guys who were doing judo, wrestling, jido-kwan, old school taekwondo,
Mm.
kung fu, things like that. So it was a mix
Melting pot
of
of sorts, huh?
everything. a melting pot of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
No, sounds interesting.
basically that's my background. And then later on, I met Viko as well.
Who's
Hi,
that guy?
Viko. V-
Really?
and actually, I was encouraged. Yeah, the reason why I met Viko was there was in 2017, Viko, there was the FMA assembly, right? I think that was it. And I was in the table with Mang Romy Macapagal of KI.
Okay.
And then he said, "Oh, we have a guy there in Davao. His name is Viko. Do you know him?" I said, "I don't know him." He said, "You guys should get together, and train, because Mang Romy Macapagal would always mention that there are similarities between the two.
Okay.
In particular, with the Combate General, is that right, Viko?
Combate
Is that
General.
Yeah. That's just one of the different say similarities is that particular movement and
set. Yeah. So he said it would be. I think you'd be interested to see the similarities and the differences. So when we got back from Manila, when I got back from Manila after that, I got in touch with Viko and got to train and became good friends.
No, that's good. We're going to switch over, folks. If you are watching, tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to hit that like button. And we got a few people that are jumping in. They're saying hello, and those are as follows. We got Frank Baste, your cousin, John Rister, Joel, Ronnie Bass. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions here. We got Bruce. Daniel, Julius. Julius is probably driving around as and all that. Okay, so folks, again, these guys have been on before, but in the event that maybe you have not seen their episode or know the name, but perhaps maybe don't know much about their background, we're just going through their backgrounds quickly before we get into the exchange and the benefits they receive from each other, and that's kind of tonight's theme. Cross training and all that, and just the benefits and all that, and how I think, me for one, I think it's absolutely beneficial to do that, and that's kind of what we want to showcase tonight. So we're going to switch over to Guru Viko, and again, those of you might not know much about him and all that, he can give you a little background. So thanks for joining us. So hey, you know what I realized? Statistically, by you being on tonight, this is your fourth time. You are you have been on the show the most.
Not really.
Not by, it just kind of happened. I had you on first, then I had you on with Guru Jeff, then we did the All-Star. We had you, Guru Jeff, and of course Guru Brandon, and now hence this is your fourth time now. So
maybe that's 3 times too much, huh?
You're the darling of the press.
Not based on the feedback. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's always good to be here and spend a good brother from the South. My bye, Manolo.
Yeah.
So good to tag team there. I really think highly of Manolo. He's got a great following in Davao, and if you ever find yourself in Davao, go visit Ryan Cordero's school under Manolo. Just a good set of guys. They love to spar. They love to just get right down there and just hit each other with style, and great guys, good martial artists. I can't and I think highly of them. Yeah.
So let's hear about, again, for those who maybe don't, just give us a quick background of yourself, and then we're going to jump into the main topic.
Well, I've probably given my background 4 times. This is the 4th time already, so I'll make it very brief. No,
Just quick. Quick.
Yeah, real quick. Under Master Tupa Ricketts, under through Bakbakan, Obviously, a lot of people know that it's really a brotherhood of martial artists. Started Sagasa kickboxing, and then Ocho, and of course the weapon side of it, which was Calilistissimo, and started that in 1992, and continue to do that till today.
All right.
So
Great. Okay, so let's get all right. So you guys meet, right? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you initiated the contact, Guro Manolo. You reached out to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's for starters, why don't we go over the kind of the first meet and greet and what took place.
So we met in Ryan's gym, and well, we just got right into it. Like we started comparing notes about this is, Viko would show something, and then we would show them how it would look like from a Lescas lightning perspective. And that's how we saw that, it's really not that dissimilar. There are similarities between the two, and there's really that potential to incorporate it into the movement of either LSI or KI. So what the big benefit for me, at least, that I saw, Dean, was the fact that when you see what you're doing through the perspective of somebody else, it gives you a better understanding of the other potential stuff that you can do with that. And it also gives you an understanding of the mindset of the guys who came up with that technique, why they did it a certain way.
Okay.
So and getting a deeper understanding of the whys actually gives you a deeper understanding of the art that you're actually practicing. So it opened up a lot of possibilities just for myself, for Lescas, just getting exposed to the stuff that Viko was showing us. And that's a big perspective.
And also start off from even from the personality standpoint. I think Manolo and I we both have the same hunger to learn and already aligned on what are the key elemental movements that cuts across all, that should be present across all combat arts, right? Which is power, speed, footwork, timing, range. That was immediately a connection in terms of when we started comparing notes. And then of course, the intention for the feeder as well. That was also right away a quick understanding that's how it should be, And then we just took it from there. A lot of similarities from both footworks, angles. Power. I mean, it was there, and I'll make one move, and he would do it. This is what it looks like, and then you'd see a hybrid. It'll be funny, but then there'll be a hybrid movement that'll happen. So it was really good.
I just had and just from me outside looking in, I'm not claiming to know much about lightning scientific. I mean, I'm interested in it. I'm definitely intrigued and all that. I definitely heard some conversation about the similarities and all that. But I will say this, outside looking in, and I'm sure there's more. But I'm just saying the one thing I noticed, they seem to have a hanging step. Am I correct in that? Am I accurate? Or something you'd be construed as such,
Yeah, the lutang.
The lutang, mean? You guys, I don't know if you call it that, but you guys.
Master Elmer, when because what he did with Lescas, Lescas is basically a methodology for imparting lightning. So what he did was he codified a lot of the things that Mang Ben did not have written down but in his curriculum, but that he did.
Already had.
So
Okay.
there's one there. There's one there where you have a reiterada, where you just hang your foot, and that's similar to the lutang of
Interesting. Wow.
KI. Yeah, and actually, Dean, if you look at if you, for those who were there during the Narafield days, because of the intergroup play that we had then. We had groups that the group of Master Yuli was one of the strongest groups that we had then. And then you had the PUP, Arnie's team. And in the PUP Arnie's team, because it's a school, right? And then you would have LSI guys in that team as well. And then you'd have KI guys who were studying in PUP in that team as well and stuff like that. You would have a lot of interchange of techniques that are used in sparring. So we would adapt what was most effective in play
Sure.
from the other teams. And
Yeah,
that's a
look,
great thing.
look,
So
they're doing that, and they're not getting hit in the leg. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So let's do it, right? So that kind of spread out through the different groups that were active there as well. But our lutang isn't as emphasized as KI. I think that much is clear.
When you say
the
that,
application was very specific.
In the expression of it, in the movement, or
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
In the movement, KI would be, because that was something that they used often. So they had a very specific set of characteristics to it. Like, for example, for us, just an example, right? If these were your 2 feet, this is your front leg, right? For us, when we would execute it, it would just be whoop and then back. And then Viko showed us that it has to go back a little bit, back a little bit, and then whoop. So you gain that little, and then hang, just to get that little bit of distance, a little bit more. Yeah. So those were things that were, that added to what we knew.
And I like to add as well, just with lutang, of course, KI can have a whole course on it, no? Because there's just different kinds.
Yeah,
you probably know that. Yeah. But one thing as well that also is very similar was the dynamicism of the left hand, or the empty hand, because the checking of the left hand against the weapon arm of the opponent was for less acids, for lightning, it was so active, just like the left hand of KI and of Tatang, where it wasn't just a tap, it was a real push down. In fact,
it was a real push down. There was impact.
Push down, and sometimes you push towards the center of the opponent rather to the side.
Yeah,
and it's aggressive, and that's where also we also align. We have a strong similarity there, and that's probably why, because that left hand being so active and so dynamic, right? Lends itself to that relationship of having a dagger, right? Originally, like what Manolo said, it was a sword and dagger art, no?
Yeah. So, I mean, again,
you always have that natural left hand really just coming in there, just as active and breaking rhythm.
Interesting. I just want to check the comments, make sure I'm not missing any questions over here, because they do pile up. Hey, Maestro Alvin, Samuel, Chad. All right. Connie. Okay, Boston. Yes, I remember Manolo recommended Manolo to join Lightning, as I used to see Mog Ben Lima every Sunday at Luneta whenever he visited Tatang and Mang Tony, as well as to see him during tournaments, and recommended Lightning due to their power strikes. So
yeah, but there was Baste Carlos was one of the major influences why I got into FMA. So we were friends in college.
From UP. Okay. Man, everybody UP, huh? God, everybody talked over there either was in UP or had something to do with UP or something. Taught there, went there. So all right, somebody throw out Combate General. So when we talk about that? So Viko, Combate General. Was that something similar in Let's Cast 2, or they had a similar approach?
You have to. It wasn't term combate general, but the movements are there, right? And the concept was there, right? The general combat, right? So stepping to the side and then twisting and then getting on a very strong angle, right? I mean, that was right there, and you'll see it. Manolo can demonstrate it, but as soon as it happens, it's there. It's the same thing. It's like a game of chess, but anything on one side, the opponent throws completely has committed, and therefore you take the opposite direction, and you're in a strong angle and you fire away. And it was the footwork. It was the footwork that does that, plus the power of the hips.
The footwork. Yeah.
As soon as I saw that, then you really see the similarities. Names might not be there, but it's the concept is definitely.
Yeah. Okay. And boss.
Because just to give you a little, if I can add to that, Dean.
Sure, please.
To give you a little understanding, because the strategy in Lightning is to go to the blind side, basically, and try to limit your opponent's movement. So we had this term when Master Elmer had the term called programming, where you go to a particular side to force your opponent and limit his movements to a set of movements that he can do from that angle that you are ready to respond to. That's basically that's the idea behind a lot of the strategies of Lightning. And my perception of KI before was that they didn't have that as well, or they were more linear. But interacting with Viko, I was like, "Whoa, what? It's the same, dude."
Okay.
It was really an eye opener for me. It made me fall in love with KI as well.
Yeah, it's hard not to, all right. Just checking out these comments here, making sure. Told you, Dean Franco, about Baste Carlos. Julius definitely knew about them. I forget what number I interviewed both brothers. Unless there's something you told me that I'm not recollecting. Okay. Anyway, so you guys meet up the first time. You're kind of comparing notes, what have you. You're seeing some similar footwork and all that. And what about the striking? Was any parallel that you guys kind of like that were really similar? I mean, obviously everybody's got an X. I'm not so much in the terms of the Eki strike or X, but more so maybe perhaps other strikes that there was definitely some resemblance. Anything there?
If I can answer, Viko, I think the thing that I saw that was similar was the same emphasis on the generation of power through hip movement. That's because Leska's Lightning, the emphasis was really on power. If you saw Mang Ben before, it would just be, it's just power really using kinetic linking, using your body, using your hips to generate that kind of power. And that's something that I also saw with Viko's movement. So angles are angles, regardless of what system you use. It's really the expression of these angles that I tend to look at to see if there's a similarity. And just that movement of the hip and the shoulders and the link from the ground up, the kinetic link, even using the sink, wherein you use a little bit of gravity, go down a little bit just to add that little bit of power to your strikes.
Yeah, it's like
those are things that I saw.
Yeah,
I saw with Viko that I saw was a lot similar to the mindset that we had.
Okay. Okay. Viko, you like to add to that?
How about you, Vic? You want to
I
add to
agree,
that?
I agree the same thing. One of the things that Master Tuper really emphasized was, the movement of the hip. That's even through Sagasa, and I already told myself that if it wasn't a blade and I had an impact weapon, I'd be striking just like that, the way they're doing it there with the power, and then the hip turning with the footwork. It just that's exactly the same thing. They said that there's a lot of similarities, and even some points of even being aware of where you finish your strike. The awareness of where you end is also very important. Firing directly from where you finish, those are the similarities that came to be. In fact, I think after the first day we met and we had a little workshop, we already concluded that okay, every Saturday, Bayan, it's every Saturday morning or something.
Yeah, that was every Saturday morning.
Like, okay, this is it. 9 o'clock every Saturday. We're doing this, and this is what we're gonna do. In fact, there was one time where I'm not sure, but if you should see, like, because Manolo's again, one of the things that really attracted me was his innovations as well with his team, because he's able to incorporate the movements of his base art with fighting with nunchucks, fighting with a tonfa, right? And with his 1 to 12, you can use the tonfa, you can use nunchucks, and even with the 1 to 12, you'll see a pluma there. Okay, there's a pluma there. Even when they finish, I'm just better, but that's what I see. Maybe I never told you in Manolos, but there's a pluma there, right? So those were the things. Really, really cool. It reminded me of exactly what you might end up experiencing in a different way or form, but just the concept, experiencing being in the bakbakan class, right? Just innovation, right? Merging of strikes, a merging of different arts, using different weapons. It was really, really cool. Really cool.
Okay. All right. So just taking obviously the same power torque, and regardless of what's in your hand, is kind of what I'm hearing. Okay. What about, so we strikes, footwork, all that, but what about tactics? What about from the lens of tactics? Like, were there similarities as far as tactics are concerned? Like, anything like that you guys maybe cross-reference and you found out some similar, I mean, not just working to the back, but I guess, like, for instance, make like, the concept of uno pagata, just being on the outside to try to maximize the counter and to try to exploit them on their, when they on their, getting behind their strike, so to speak, the way some people have explained it to me. Anything like that, for example, or
for lightning for Lascas, basically, if you look at Lascas and the mindset of Mang Ben, it was more of pasukin mo. When you say pasukin mo, close the distance and then control him, right? So curriculum wise, we did have those ritaradas, or those going back and then doing it from a largo, un pulgada kind of thing. But it wasn't as emphasized, right? Because the emphasis was on the pasukin mo thing. Although different groups through the course of sparring would develop certain skills. It's an unconscious kind of development. But what I noticed as well was, just to give you a little bit of history. So Master Elmer's teaching was focused on using the stick as a weapon in and of itself. So it was very impact oriented. When we trained with Mang Ben, he had a set. One of the last things that he taught us was what he called the abecedario. And we were thinking, what's this abecedario? When he showed us, it was, it's just a 13 basic strikes. It's the first lesson you learn in the system, right? But there was a certain difference in the way he would execute it. So it wasn't impact based. And in that execution, you would see him go back and then go front and stuff like that. So, and then he showed us some of the applications for those movements. And what we found, what we concluded, well, the conclusion we came to was the reason why it was different was because it was actually focused on the use of a blade. It wasn't stick. And those movements where you go back, those are like the lastico movements, for example,
Okay.
using range, things like that. So the funny thing is when he taught us that, and this is the same experience that Nathan and the guys in Manila had when Mang Ben taught them, because for us we learned it when we brought him to Davao, right? Was the old man actually wanted to teach it without anybody else watching. Basically it was a closed door thing, but it was very simple. But the applications were pretty there. You had a lot of applications just from that simple set of movement. That's why my conclusion, at least this is my opinion, is that that's the root of the system. Everything else is fluff. When you're talking about what he used during the Second World War and things like that, that's probably it. It's probably confined to that, and everything else just expansions of the system and things like that.
So Guro Viko, anything
we didn't have it as much. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Guro Viko, anything far as tactics that you saw, maybe some parallel from their approach to sparring or fighting or anything?
The footwork was just very good. So being light on your feet, not you just not flat-footed, really being able to bounce around like boxing. Pretty much, that's the one thing that Master Tupper always said. When you're fighting, it's like a fighting form. It's pretty much your boxing. You're pretty, you're not slouching. You're upright, and your footwork's very, very agile. That's one thing that you'll see. I like about I saw with Manolo's group. And then also the importance of having the importance of not just timing and speed and power, but accuracy. Accuracy not just on the target, but also making sure that you're hitting mostly with the last 3 inches of the stick, or the weapon, right? So the tip is the most important. You're not hitting, at the center of the weapon. Of course, if you have a barong, you want to hit that medium, but it's for the stick. It's always that tip that was always making sure that's what hits the target. That's where you get most of the power and the pain. So I saw that as well. The speed, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. So what else? Okay. Your guys' lens. All right. Sparring. So what? Like obviously when you guys met, I know initially you were comparing notes, but I'm going to assume at some point there were some, intermingling far as maybe your students sparring each other, you guys sparring each other, if that in fact is the case, what were some of the takeaways from those experiences?
Sparring wise, I think it was we were just able to spar once, Vic, right?
Yeah.
And it was just hand sparring in your house.
It was that. So I just tell a story. So I sparred si Ryan, diba? Ryan and you hand sparring. Remember, was it?
Yeah.
In the gym?
Yeah.
So we had a lot of techniques on how to face the distance. It was hand sparring, and but I'm not sure if Ryan was being easy on me. Manolo, maybe he was being easy on me. But but it was good. It was great. Again, tactics of closing the distance or illusion of distance, right? We did that a lot. Then we were supposed to heavy spar in my house. I'm gonna tell the story,
Yeah.
And Julius,
go ahead.
We were supposed to spar in my house. Everyone came with weapons and armor. I, of course, as one does, as the host, cooked food. I think I was in the smoked ribs or smoked pork for like 12 hours. Yeah. And we had beer and alcohol.
Can't forget that.
And I ended up not sparring at all and just getting drunk and something else.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys left out. So is it so from all your guys meetups?
And that happens a lot.
From all
Yeah.
your
I mean,
guys
it's funny.
meetups.
We all came ready with our gear. It was really cool. It's all there.
Yeah.
So no
We were
sparring.
just totally wasted, and it's like, oh, should we still do
Yeah.
this? I don't know.
So nothing. Did you
Yeah.
guys all get to have any sparring exchanges?
We would do a little bit of exchange, right? Like what's this? Like comparing notes and bringing out our ideas. But oh man, everybody was like just so chill. It's nobody wanted to move.
Yeah.
Oh, from the
We're just
eating and
listening to
what have you.
music and
So
then
the
doing
sparring kind of went
from
out
the
the
eating
window.
Listening to
and
music.
Okay.
We actually were watching some martial art videos as well, no? Something like that.
yeah, we were watching some martial arts videos. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's
All
funny
right.
if you went to Viko's house. If you went to Viko's house, you'd be like, "Oh, dude, I gotta show you this blade." So he goes into his bedroom, right? Opens a drawer, draws one knife out, and then puts it back, and then oh, I have another one here. Goes to his bathroom, and then here it is, right? And then he goes out to the kitchen, and then he's like, "Oh, here's another one that I really like." And then he has a flat screen TV. He reaches out behind the flat screen and pulls out a bolo. And this is one of my favorites. it's everywhere.
I guess you never know when you're gonna need to have an edge weapon. So no sparring. All right. So then, was there ever a
We had a
point
few.
where there's an exchange?
Pardon?
We had a few hand spars, right, Vic? Viko hand sparring. Oh, Viko is top notch, man. He's tall. He has the reach, and usually with tall guys, from my experience, who are when they're taller than usual and they have long arms, they're not that when it comes to the um, fast twitch movement. They have a
The
problem.
retraction?
It's the retractions, but Viko's hands are
Recovery.
fast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Because the
The
longer you go
recovery,
out,
Viko's hands are fast.
the
For some guy,
recovery.
for a guy his height and his reach, he's fast. We had trouble. We had we had difficulty trying to because he knew the range and his hands were fast.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
You just being nice.
Yeah. No worries. So Julius, we're just we got most of the meat and potatoes as far as their interaction, all that. We're just on sparring, trying to cover their their interaction and all that. Did you have any questions for them?
I've been watching the whole time. It's just I had to drive away because I just came back from work. So that's why I'm inside my car right by the bank. I did have a question because Manolo said something about the difference between Mang Ben showing the forms and actually executing the technique, because I'm guessing back in World War II, obviously, he was fighting with a blade. So the movement will be a little bit different when you're fighting with an impact blunt force tool as opposed to an edge weapon. How similar was it to the micro movements of KI's Walong Apak? Because as you know, I mean, it's kind of known already.
Yeah.
If you do any kind of destreza, the movement is minuscule with the lead feet and the back feet with the toe, essentially, and basically that's what gets you out of the way, even if it's just millimeters. That could mean the difference between your face getting lobbed off or you getting stabbed in the center mass and then the opponent missing completely. How different was that with the KI movement of Tatang, with his micro movement with his lead and back feet? And then how similar is it to when Mang Ben does the forms with the 13 strikes? Because again, yeah, most people that are not adepts, that are not inducted, they can't pick that up on video. But you, pretty much everyone here, I've been a lifelong practitioner. I've been practicing FMA since I was 7 on a blade-based system, basically, that my family has. And then I later learned Bulacan, Batangas, and later the Laguna one, which is very heavy on the concept of combat measure. So how similar was it, the movements between Mang Ben? Because you saw them, right, Manolo? You saw both of them, correct? Or did you just see Mang Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I also saw a few times. I also saw Grandmaster Tatang Ilustrisimo. One was during the, I think that it was some kind of martial arts festival, grand exhibition in Metro Manila. It was done in the Met Theater. And then the other was when we visited Luneta to visit the group. Because at that time, there was a very strong friendship between the Lightning group and the KI group, basically. So we would visit each other's groups, right? So if you look at it from a visual perspective, it would be very different because Mang Ben tended to have a lower
Stance.
body disposition.
Right.
Yeah, because his style was actually to go in,
Right.
and then move off at the angle, and then
his goal is to basically try to outflank you as much as possible. And when he does do the chain link combinations, he does it in a serrata range, as opposed to a Tatang who favors chain linking combinations in the largo range. Correct.
In the largo,
right.
Yeah.
So this is a question I have
does
for Viko, because
Tatang does
Go ahead, Viko.
as well. He does.
Yeah, so
he can close.
This is a question
so
I have.
Sarada is also there with Tatang as well. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
This is a question I have for Viko because you basically learned under the feet of both Tatang and Mang Romy. Am I correct, sir?
It's mostly with Master Tupper and Master Tony.
Okay. Has there been any kind of documentation concerning the influence of Destreza Común y Vulgar and Destreza Verdadera with KI?
I'm not sure. Maybe you can clarify the first part.
Sorry, maybe I should say it a little bit slower. Sorry. Has there been any kind of research done on checking any kind of influence that Destreza Común y Vulgar and Destreza Verdadera has on some of the movements of KI?
That would be a question for Mang Romy, right? But what I can see though is just from the movement alone, from Mang Tony, you actually will see a progression of like the early days of Mang Tony's movements in the 90s and 80s, and then maybe early 90s. And then sooner or later on, it becomes more of the closer to the the Spanish movement, but not very strong, not very, very influential. I think because in the early times, I think the background of Mang Tony was still there with Balintawak. I think he had some background before. Right. And then, but then I think as he also continued to teach KI, the more and more you started seeing that, the real, so you can say, with lack of a better term, the Western side of the FMA side of things. No?
Right.
Because of again.
Did he cut off?
And a lot of times people would he couldn't bend his knee, so he had to be a little bit more efficient with his movements. So it looked like it was more smaller movements, right? One can argue that. But you'll just get to see, you can see that progression, especially through the videos I have. You can see it.
It's very and I just want to continue with that, just kind of like a final follow-up question concerning that. When you look at the different pillars of KI, such as like Guro Edgar, Mang Romy, Topher Ricketts, Tony Diego, and Master Yuli, they all have very different, I wouldn't say very different, but they all have their unique flavor. Particularly with Mang Yuli, GM Yuli is I've kind of like a very highly stylized interpretation of KI with his particular movement. How is your interpretation of KI? What would you say it's much closer to out of these people that I've listed?
Strongly because I spent a lot of time with Master Tupper. That's where you'll see it more. But when my master passed, God bless his soul, I had Master Tony to train under. First of all, it was in the beginning. It was mostly Master Tupper, but of course Master Tony would come in as well. So he'd be coming into the Bakbakan school as well, wherever that be, Makati, the Makati YMCA, or DPSI in Makati, other places like that, or San Miguel. He'd come in and also train with Master Tony. But most of the time, it was Master Tupper, primarily because of the Sagasa and the kickboxing and the Mocho. But then when he passed, I started training with Master Tony and started getting more of that influence as well. But primarily, foundation and the basics would be Master Tupper.
If I can add to that,
Sure.
Julius, actually that's one of the reasons why I love training with Viko. It's because of the same emphasis on power generation through the hips. Basically, I think, well, this is just my opinion. I'm not really sure because I haven't really trained with the others, but I find that they, at least for their brand of KI, it's much more emphasized. Maybe it's because of the late Master Tuffer's other influences there as well. So I could see it in Vico's movement. I mean, there's that giggle. We always talk about giggle, right?
Yeah, it's
That
so
boom,
I got we
that
have to
little bit
translate
of,
that. We have to translate. We have to give the Westerners a little bit of
yeah.
contextual.
I don't know how.
I will.
Yeah,
I'll give it right now.
yeah. Go ahead.
It is that kind of teeth grinding feeling that you experience whenever you see a very cute baby or something cute, but it's not cute aggression. It's not just cute aggression, because you feel that exact same feeling when you really want to hurt someone or punch someone, but you're
Yeah.
stopping yourself from doing so. So that I guess that's the closest contextual, because it's an untranslatable word in Tagalog, but it's like you want to like either eat something really bad, like oh wow, that baby's so cute, I want to pinch his cheeks, or maybe like chomp on his cheeks, but you're stopping yourself from doing so. So it's the same feeling that you're having doing that. It's also the same feeling that you have when you really want to hurt someone, but society prevents you from doing that. And you don't want to go to jail, so you stop yourself from doing so. So that's kind of like the feeling. It's an untranslatable word. Now you have a little context.
That impact is really there. That the jerking motion and the intent and the targeting. I
Yeah.
mean, Vico doesn't just swing it around. When he does that, you can clearly see that he had an intended target or intended point of in mind, right? Which
Right.
is the same as the emphasis that we had.
Yes.
The old man Mang Ben would always say, "Dapat maliwanag yung palo mo, boy." That meaning your strikes have to be clear. So when you do something, you don't just swing the stick like your weapon like this. It has to be whoop. You have a very clear
Yeah.
intended target, and that's
Exactly. And
something that I saw in
that's one thing that also got me with Manolo. And I don't know, Knowles, what I forgot what strike it is you use, know what you call it. When he moves side and he comes in and he does and he flips the blade or the stick up, and it's just like shit, you don't want to get hit with that, man. Shit. Like it's so close, it's like but like you can see it's at the back of the head actually. It's boom.
Viko, we're PG-13 rated. We're PG-13 rated. You gotta.
Did I say?
It's all right. Usually,
the S word.
profanity is not allowed, but no worries, no worries. It happens.
Yeah. So Dean's gonna ask another
Sorry.
question, and I'll just follow up after him.
Yeah. So Dean runs a tight ship of no profanity, no name calling. But so here, just in general for the audience, why would you recommend? I guess why would you recommend? I mean, I can say it, but I want you hear from you guys. For the audience, why would you recommend this to other groups? Why they should do this? Why they should train with others? and all that. So, Viko, why should we encourage that?
It's encouraging to train with others opens you up to first being humble. No, it teaches you to be humble because you have to remind yourself that you're always it becomes to like always a student. You hear that all the time, right? Forever a student. Well, if you're forever a student, then go out and
well, act like it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And it's about things being shown things that you would have never seen. And maybe if we were still living in times past where the world where you can still get jumped by someone, or family feuds or business rivalries are still around and people jump you, it's a good thing to know what's out there, what can come at you, right? You never know what's going to come at you, right? You never know. Real attacks are treacherous attacks. They come from out of nowhere. They come from the dark, and most likely it's not going to be one person. So training out there just sees you what's open. And now I know that sometimes there's this philosophy of like keeping sacred to the art. If you change a deck of cards, if you change one thing, it falls like a deck of cards. That's very true. But there's also some things that you can also slightly tweak, but you're not changing the fundamental part of the art, right? That's what Manolo does very well, as is that, right? Because it's evolution. It's evolution, but you're not changing who you are. I don't know if there's a bad maybe this is a bad analogy. Madonna is always going to be Madonna.
No, I get it. Yeah, right, exactly. No matter what color her hair is or what she's wearing.
She's always been Madonna. So how do you do that, right? It's not easy. So it takes a bit of maturity, but it's definitely there as someone's journey. For yourself as a practitioner, I encourage it, right? And another thing as well. This is what I also learned from my masters is that Master Tuper always, we have masters. They have their own spites, right? They have their own spot. They have make tampo. Tampo is the word. I don't know what tampo is in English, right? But
that's another untranslatable word right there.
Yeah, they have tampo, right?
Yeah. So we got to get context of what that is. Like
like
a jilted
they have
lover.
Like
that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But if Master Tuper knew I was going somewhere and there's a master that he knew, visit Master so and so, pay your respects. Tell him I say hello. Right? And when you do, you pay your respects obviously by going there and saying hello, introducing yourself first, and then also exchanging or sharing your arts with one another. Right? This happened with Master Bobby Tabawada when he went to Sydney. Went to his seminar there. With Master Ray Kalang when he went to Australia. Master Edgar when I went to the US and when he was in the early 90s. But Master Tuper and Master Edgar were always friends. And same thing when I'll be living in Australia, and I go to Manila. Sometimes Master Tuper and Master Tony, they'll have their arguments, but he would always encourage me to pay respects and train with them. And sometimes it'd be like, he would send his guys to Master Tony and goes, "Can you please check on my students?" Right? Things like that, And what's interesting surprise is that after you cross train with some other martial arts or other masters or other schools, the masters would call each other and talk. "Oh, your boy came here saying hello," or your student came here and he, I really like it. So those are the other peripheral good things that happen outside, of course, just learning yourself on what the other arts are.
Awesome. Great answer. Guro Manolo, anything you'd like to add to that?
I think Viko has said a lot, so I'll just add. I won't repeat. I'll try not to repeat what Viko has already said. Right. One of the greatest benefits is it's like because movement is movement, right? So technically everybody has the umbrella block or the sombrada block and things like that. But seeing that from the perspective of somebody else gives you more insight into your own art. So it enriches your understanding of what you're actually doing. I think that's one of the greatest takeaways with that. And second, and I've mentioned this before, I think that I agree with Vico in that you don't change what you have fundamentally so that it becomes a totally different animal, but you can tweak, because basically that's what the old the people we look up to, the old masters did. They're not just a single pure art, or they didn't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
what they had from a single source. It was basically what they saw was applicable, and then they would incorporate it into what they already had. So if we talk about the tradition of FMA, it's actually a tradition of evolution, in my perspective at least. The
Yeah.
only reason it became codified and people were trying to it's a plane, yeah, and people were trying to preserve it and put it in these time capsules when this formal schools came out, because you had
Yeah.
to have an identity,
Oh, because you
right?
had
But
to
before
separate
it,
yourself from others. Others. I got you.
yes, yes. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had to
Okay.
have your style, but basically
Yeah.
everybody was like, okay, what's the most effective? For me, this is
Yeah.
it, based on my personality, based on my exposure and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But the caveat to that is, um, before you even try to do that, you have to have a base. That means you have to have at least an extensive background in at least one, because that acts as your baseline.
Your
That's
platform.
that's
Sure. Sure.
what you compare everything against. No, you won't be able to actually. I think you'll have a problem, or you'll have trouble trying to determine whether something is good or not if you don't have a baseline to compare it with. So
Yeah.
you
It'll be
can
hard to
actually say this is better than this, or this isn't something I would.
agree.
Yeah, and that's the first. And second is, you don't get it hook, line, and sinker. You just adapt what doesn't clash with your natural movement based on your baseline. So that's possible. That way you don't get into this. You don't stop. You don't freeze, because you're like, okay, this is what my body wants to do, but this is what my mind wants to do. It has to go in. It has to what's this? Uh, Fit in a way wherein there's no conflict, there's no clash. It just
Yeah.
flows from one thing to another, right? And again, you can only do that, I think, if you have a very solid foundation in at least one. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Agreed. Like if
that's those are
yeah.
those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with both of you. Like, yeah, if you're not seasoned in one system, it's gonna be really hard to extract or incorporate stuff from under there if you don't have a fundamentally strong understanding. I mean, I could definitely understand and appreciate that. To me, it's like I'm just fascinated with methodologies, and I'm kind of nosy
Yeah,
too. Like, I want to know what you're doing. Just being honest, man. Like, like, I want to know what you're
yeah,
doing. I want to see how you move, and not and because I'm a student at heart. Like if you're doing something that's like really good, like I want to see it. You know what I mean? Regardless of the module, the
yeah,
weapon, or whatever. So
yeah,
I mean, like I'm just yeah. So I'm a geek in methodology. Like I know, like I want to know your what, and I want to know how you apply your what and why you do it. Like you know what I
yeah,
mean. So everybody has their like I guess their little quirks, like why they do it. But I think it's just
yeah,
so beneficial to do. You know what I mean? Like this whole thing, like we got to stay over here. We can't go train with them over there.
yeah.
I never understood that. I don't. You know what I mean? I don't
And I
know.
think, yeah, and I think I totally agree with Vico. It just takes away your ego, dude. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, right. You're coming with your
it
open
keeps you
heart,
grounded.
open mind, and you're right. You want it like when people see that you're sincere and you're coming with an open hand and open like when people see that, stuff tends to be easier as far as intermingling because you don't have an agenda. You know what I mean? People think you have an agenda. Yeah. Then you're gonna kind of you start getting that weirdness. You know what I mean? But people see that you're sincere, you're humble, and that you really desire to see what they have and exchange. People pick up on that. Yeah, I think so. Anyhow. Julius, anything you'd like to add?
I do. So, just a side note, I think a better way for me to explain tempo for the Western audience is passive aggressive behavior that you get from a jilted lover. Except that can apply to anything, because that could apply to like your teacher having that passive aggressive behavior towards you if they feel like you slighted them. So that's what tempo means. It's like that those like actions of passive aggressiveness that someone that you're close to does to you when you do something that they feel like wasn't right. I do have my final question for you guys, but it's really directed to Viko. You got to meet the great man. Was there an esoteric side to his capabilities? I mean, you don't have to elaborate. I know that's a very sensitive topic. It's just could be a yes or no.
Look, I'll put it out there. I mean, I was very young when I would see great GM Tatang, right? But there's one thing that really, really catches you is his death stare. He sees right through you.
That could not be nice.
No. I've had that same. The reason why I have to ask that is because I'm willing to share this experience. I hope I don't get in trouble with my relatives in Santo Tomas, Batangas, where the Malvars are from. But the Malvar family had a soldier, and he was actually very well known by Nardong Putik, kind of like a legendary outlaw in Philippine history. His name was Modelo. Essentially, he was like a top soldier / assassin for the family. He kind of had the same thing that when you would spar with him, it was like a weird thing. Like it was almost like he could like pierce your soul. Like he was like breaking apart your soul kind of thing. Like you just freeze. It was hard to describe because I felt it as a child. I think that's what a Viko is trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. It's the kind when you're standing in front of him, he's not really exactly looking at your eyes, but he's kind of is and not. Yeah. You don't know what he's looking at. He's just looking at. Yeah, it's just blank.
Looking through you.
Yeah. No. But you feel it inside, don't you? Like,
eyes right, Viko? Blinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he never from the stories with Master Tuper, Master Tony, he never brags about his escapades or his he beat up this guy or he did that. He never mentions that, You just know. I mean, there'll be stories
with Mang Ben.
Yeah, there'll be stories where I got the story from Tony and Arnold. Is when there would be when the daylight would come and there would be dead bodies in the streets of Tondo, the police would already know. It was Tatang. They would know it was Tatang. Like it was him. And,
was it true that he was an assassin of Ashung Solonga? Was it true he's one of his lieutenants?
I mean, from what I researched and what I was told, that's what the words and that's what people say to me, and that's what's written, right? I was never around, but that's the story. He would grease himself, then put the bandana here so that the sweat doesn't go to his eyes,
right? Right.
With that, and of course his corazon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not the first person who told me that exact thing. So now I can kind of have an answer on like the reality of his esoteric or occultic nature. So thank you. You don't have to elaborate. I just thank you for your answer.
No. Guru Manolo, did you ever meet him?
Yeah.
Grandmaster Tatang. Yeah. I met him once during
so what was your impression?
Visit that we had. Well, he was pretty chill. He was sitting because our group visited the Luneta guys. Master Tufer was there, Master Tony Diego, and Tatang was actually just sitting in the corner. So as was the practice, you always go to the grandmaster of other groups and you do your manopo as a sign of respect.
Mm.
It's the first thing you do. So when we would have get-togethers, I remember Doran, for example. I didn't know him personally then, but I remember his face. Their group would go up to Mang Ben and do the manopo, and we would
Okay.
do the same to Tatang. So we went to Tatang, and he was just sitting there, and then we did a manopo, and then he told us this story that, oh, it's too bad you didn't arrive like 5 minutes earlier because somebody challenged the group and got a cut on his on his eyebrow because he got hit.
I
That's
thought you were saying something
just about the
worse.
interaction.
Too bad. I thought you were saying
No,
something worse.
'cause-
Hey, too bad you weren't here 5 minutes earlier. You could have said somebody just get carried away or something.
That's funny. Dean,
So-
you're the only one in this chat room that hasn't seen the old man, because I saw him as a child. I was just too small of a kid to like understand what was going on. But I've been to the den back in the early '90s. Yeah.
Jeez. Guru Viko, did you ever get the chance to meet Envy, Guru Manolo, Mangban, or Elmer?
So I'll tell you, I want to say I met not Mang Ben, unfortunately, but I did meet some other masters in the art. So Vic Sanchez
Hmm.
and Simang Phil from UP, Knowles.
Mang Phil Buena. Yeah.
Yeah. He was actually the PE
Mang
teacher.
Phil Buena is also, he's also part of the Lescas, our group, Lescas group.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah.
both Manolo, you have a Balintawak background, right? Did you ever get to meet Johnny Chudin?
No, never. The only Balintawak master I've met is Master Rico Carino, who's based in Cagayan de Oro.
How about you, Viko?
Master Bobby Taboada was the only Balintuak teacher I met.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you guys, because we're almost coming up, right? Again, this wasn't had to be a long session, but if you amongst each other, so Guru Viko, what could you say for people who are watching? Guru Manolo's strongest attributes, strongest things, why people should train with them. If people
There's a whole list.
Yeah, whatever you want to share.
Number one, he's a great teacher. The way he explains, he articulates why a movement is and how to execute that movement physically is very good. Number two is that he does execute it flawlessly. And what I mean by flawlessly is that the form is there, the intention is there, and the details are there. Number three is also a great guy. So that comes part and parcel. And then this is not in order. The other one is his group in Davao are fighters. They're fighters.
Mm.
I grew up in Bakbakan as always with fighters, and fighters no fighters. So his guys fight, and they're not afraid to fight. And we have a spar. We have a tournament in Bakbakan sometimes. Anytime, anywhere, we're ready. Right? You want to throw down? We can throw down now. We'll throw down. I mean, spar, right? So there's no wait. No. It's just let's go. Let's do it, and let's test each other, and so that put it all together. And he's got a great. I don't call another brother as well, see Ryan Cordero, which I think you should have in this.
No, his name has come up, and I certainly would love to have him on. Yeah.
Dean, I gotta go. I just want to say to these two that I can't wait to have. I'm a teetotaler, but
Okay.
I'll break that rule to drink Lambonog with the two of you.
No, but hey, Julius. Paulo is saying that you look like a drug deal is about to go down. Is this true? Are you really? Are you? Why are you sitting in that car?
For litigation's sake, let's not joke about that, because I was kind of like that back in the day because I'm from Rampart. So let's not joke about that. I've actually lived that life.
Well, intriguing minds want to know. I would like to know why you're hanging out in a car in a parking lot. Just kidding you. No, but thanks for jumping in.
Yeah. So I can't wait. I'm a teetotaler, but I'll break that rule to drink Lambanog with the two of you.
Okay.
So take care.
All right, man. Be good.
Yeah, yes.
All right, let's switch it. Guro Manolo.
As
Oh,
well.
I'm sorry,
His-
Guru Viko. Were you still
Manolo's
going?
guys respect him. So
Okay.
when you see someone, when you see students respecting the way they respect their master, the way they do, that's also one thing as well. Again, also with Guru Ryan as well. Those guys are awesome, man. They're awesome. I words can't express.
All right. Okay, Guru Manolo, what would you like if somebody, those are watching, I mean, off the top of your head, what could you say as far as like whether it's attributes, teaching, personality, as far as Guru Viko?
Okay, first and foremost, Guru Viko is a great guy, man. I mean, after our first meeting off the bat, I said, I like this guy. he's he's a great guy. I think that's important, and that's the first thing I actually look at when, I mean, your skill doesn't matter. It really
Yeah, if you're
it matters.
All right.
Yeah, if you're a jerk, I don't care if you're
I don't
that
want to be
good,
around
right?
you. I don't care
So,
how good you are.
I don't want to be around you, right?
Yeah,
That's
100%.
the thing.
Yeah.
And second is Viko has a very, very deep understanding of the KA art. I think, and not just from an intellectual perspective. I'm talking about an understanding of it in a practical sense,
Okay.
because he spars with it. As he's mentioned, it's their group also loves sparring, so he's also a fighter. That's another thing. And he's very particular. He's a stickler for form.
Yeah, oh yeah, you don't have to tell me.
He's a stickler for form and function. You know, there you have a lot of teachers who just show you the movement, but they don't really, look at the what's this, the minute details of how to do it. Viko does. So if you want to learn it the proper way, I highly recommend him, because he's really a stickler, and based on that form, he can explain why that form is the way it is, because of his deep understanding of the art. And I also love the fact that he has an extensive background from his Bakbakan background, so that he can actually give you several exercises which may not be FMA based, but can directly contribute to your movement in FMA, specifically in KI. So, I mean, apart from that, that's really, and I have, just like Viko, I have no words to say. He's a great guy. He's a great, talented martial artist, and he's also a talent. I mean, you can be a talented martial artist, but not a talented teacher. Viko has all of it. He's a complete package, man. I mean, he's a complete package. He can teach and he can fight.
I'm gonna transfer the money to your account now, okay?
Yeah. Make sure you got that PayPal address correct.
I know.
Yeah. He's a complete package. He can teach, he can fight. Yeah. Just
again, because this name's come up before, and I want to write him down and definitely take him. Is Dax Cordero? Is he go under a different handle as far as Facebook is concerned?
I think that's the name that he uses. He's from what I know, he's with Carlos Hermanos. He's with Carlos Hermanos.
He's under them? Okay. But then who's the? I'm sorry, Ryan.
From what I know,
no, Ryan. Who's the guy that you were referencing before?
Ryan. Bagani
Davao.
Okay.
Bagani Davao.
Okay, what about Ryan somebody brought Ryan Cordero? Am I mistaken?
That's Bagani Davao. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right, different handle. Okay.
Yeah.
That's his name in the Facebook.
All right,
In Facebook.
Ryan. Okay, so I need to get Guru Ryan on here sometime. Okay. All right, I'm writing his name down. I got confused there. Apologies. Okay. I was confused.
In fact, what's funny about some of our some experiences with training with Manolo and Ryan is Ryan's wife Lynn would also be the one videoing. She's always there.
We'll be taking videos. Yeah.
Taking videos.
Okay.
I think for me that they're one of the few perfect FMA couples to have around, husband and wife team.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Actually, maybe we can hey, you know what? That would be kind of neat. The first couple.
I think that's a great thing.
Oh my God!
If Ryan will allow that.
Ryan, if you're up for it, this will be we do a first episode that would be a marital couple talking about their journey. So if you're up for it, I'm game. And no apologies on the confusion. That was from me. Okay, we got a question from Paulo. Dean, can you ask these gentlemen how they craft form in their fighters and fighting arts when people actually fight? The fine nuances that may be more effective than in the standards and the nuances. Boxing, the best example of this. You guys see his question? If not, I can repeat it.
When people they find personal.
Okay. Oh, all right. You see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So from what I understand there, let's say, how do we craft form in their fighters? Okay. Then when the fighters are actually sparring, then they actually display some nuances to them, and then how do we maybe sort of shape that, right? Good question, by the way. So no student will have the exact same form, right? And we don't expect students to also mirror 100% how we move as well. But there's fundamental things that should always be in place when you spar, right? For form in KI, is there a demo part in this? Wala, no? None? Wala, no?
I can always transfer to a place where if you guys want to show a demo part.
If you want to show something, I can lower myself. It'll make the screen bigger.
No, I mean, well, with KI, I'll just stand up.
All right, I'll lower myself though.
Yeah. So one thing is, like, a lot of people will some fighters will we always tell them to go, like boxing, for example, right? So your right hand is in front this way. One thing in KI is that the elbow is always in, right? It doesn't necessarily always have to be stuck to it like glue, but it's in. So, but then some nuances will have, people will have different nuances in terms of, how far it is from their body or whether their shoulder is down or up. But those are the things you fix. But one thing for do is just to keep on just repeating all the time, repetition and guiding the student on the fundamentals of KI form. So it's easy. All you have to do is, one thing I always say is, if you stand up straight, hands are relaxed, lift your hands up, take one step forward, and that's the fighting form. And if it's this easier it is to get to the form, the better. You can also stand up straight, put your hands up, and step back with your left foot, and that's also your fighting form. It's very simple. You'll have some situations where students will have their shoulders too high, too tight.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the things you fix. Those are the things you fix, right? Or sometimes they'll be back like this, and they'll be crouched or head down. Okay, those are things you fix. But the basics of the stepping back, hands up, I mean, that's just where you always try to guide it. And it's just repetition. To answer Paulo's question, you just have to just remind them of doing it. Remind them all the time. Every time they execute it, fix the form. Keep it basic first, and start with one thing at a time, one thing at a time, and then you progress from there. That's how I normally do it. But Manolo, yours, up to you.
So actually, Guru Manolo, maybe you can answer this second part of his question, which is again, the
Yeah.
question is, how do you manage nuances of style that manifest differently from fighter to fighter? You want to tackle that one?
How do you manage nuances of style
That
that
manifest differently from fighter to fighter. So maybe, for example, like look at maybe a couple of your students, like how, like
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
that would help.
Well, I don't know if I can answer that question because basically you just have a bag of tricks that you a bag of tricks that you practically pull into, so that you have one trick that you're going to use against this particular type of fighter, the one trick
Mm,
you're going to use against that particular part of type of fighter, right? So it really depends on what bag of how many things you have in your bag of tricks that you can actually use, because you can have a lot of tricks in your bag,
mm.
like 100 tricks, but you can actually only apply 10 because you haven't practiced,
The other 90 or
and
whatever. Okay.
yeah, so it's so fluid when you're talking about in a sparring
Mm,
context. It's very fluid. You can't really tell how you man, because basically it's a lot of it is intuitive. When you see a fighter who's, like, for example, if you see a fighter who's always in the largo range, always in the long range, right? So, and you're not getting any of the contact
mm,
that you would prefer, then you're gonna try to do an engaño, uh, things like that. Or if you have somebody who is always crashing in, then you would try to dance around and fight him with the long range,
I got you.
and ensure that he doesn't have that space to crash into you. You know, things like
Okay.
that. So it's really dependent on the bag of tricks that you have, I would say.
Yeah. No.
One thing that I remember the first time I actually joined a tournament. Um, so we have this Master Elmer also had a set of students who were more experienced in the tournament scene than us. These were the guys from Paco. The Paco is a place in Manila, so we had another group there, right? So they were experienced in tournament fighting. First time we joined, so we asked them. I asked one of their top players. His name is Mon Bernardo. Mon, these are the groups we're gonna go up against. What do you think? Should I do? What particular technique should? And basically, what he said was, you know what? Don't think about it. Uh, just do what you know. And then his words were, magtiwala ka kay Mang Ben kasi
Mm,
magaling yung grandmaster natin. Translated, trust in Mang Ben because we have a very good grandmaster. That's it. And
okay. Yeah.
so far it's worked for us. We don't kind of over intellectualize things, stuff like that.
Sometimes it's best not to like I guess it's easy to overthink things and then you lose focus because you're overthinking it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced that personally. And yeah, you got to just stick with what you have and what it's been instilled in you and what's been working. You know what I mean? And for sure.
And the more you play, the more experience you gain,
Hmm.
and you just
Yeah.
learn from it. And
No,
that's
it's
it.
good answer by both of you. And we're coming up an hour and a half. This has been fantastic. And again, for those who jumped in late, the whole theme for tonight was cross training, the benefits and all that. Something I strongly encourage for people to do. It's what I mean. It's like these guys says, it brings out humility. Obviously, it's a learning experience. If you're a student and you proclaim to be a student for life and forever, well, then this is a good way to kind of act in accordance with that. It's like you train with others. It's a wonderful experience. It's something I try to do as much as humanly possible. Obviously, amongst COVID, it's obviously been difficult, but it's really you learn how to go against different styles and what they do and all that. I love it. And again, like I said, I'm kind of a nerd in methodology, so So I just loved, their what and how they apply it and all that. So, and I think you guys really did a great job in answering some of that, and your cross training, your experience from each other, and what you got from each other. And we viewed from a technique lens, we viewed from a tactical lens, and then we concluded with the sparring lens. So we kind of got all those facets in there when you guys met and all that. So I don't know. I think you guys did great in that. And by the comments alone, that except for Julius being in a parking lot. Still investigating that.
Something's going down.
So closing statements, Guru Viko. Any closing statements for the audience, community, anything?
If you ever find yourself in Davao, visit Ryan Cordero's gym, Bagani Davao. Visit Manolo. He's I promise you, I guarantee you that you will not regret it. He'll show you around town. His guys are awesome. I respect them a lot, and that's I would recommend. Yeah.
Sure. Guru Manolo, any closing thoughts that you would like to share with the group, audience, community?
Well, maybe I'd like to start with an encouragement to practitioners out there. Don't be so closed, and be open to getting new experiences. Meet other practitioners in the art. Because the art is so rich, and there's always something to learn from other people. So if you want to be the best practitioner that you can be, that's a very good way to be the best that you can be, by exposing yourself as much as possible. Of course, a lot of this with humility, and just being what do you call this? True to yourself, being realistic about your self-assessment, stuff like that. I think that's really important. And second is, if you are anywhere near Viko, I highly recommend training with him. I really do hope Viko's tribe increase, because he's a great guy. I mean, he's also pretty chill. So I'm sure his group, if he has a group, it's gonna be pretty chill, because personalities attract certain personalities.
Yeah.
Personalities attract certain personalities. So chill instructors will attract chill people.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think that's, for me, I think that's really the way FMA should be. It's you're being serious about what you practice. It's a serious art. Some would, but then you have to balance that seriousness with something else.
Yeah,
I think, because it just becomes too dark if
we were talking about
too serious about
before
everything.
we went live.
Yeah,
before
we went live,
preparing for the publics and going commando, and
so it comes with the personality and the emphasis in the group, where you can be serious, but you can also not be serious. You know what I mean?
Know when to turn it on.
I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you know when to turn it on.
Yeah, it's I don't see as much as over here. Before we went live, we were kind of talking about this, me and Guru Manolo, and just that it's kind of, I hate to say it, man, it's something in the US, like this carrying 10 knives, and you're gonna get jumped, and the tactical pants, and it's just you know what I mean, like this, I don't know, it just kind of cracks me up, I guess. It's like,
earlier we were talking about that.
Yeah, and it attracts. I know.
If people ask me what my EDC is, it's this. It's
the wrench there.
A wrench.
Yeah.
And then I just hold it like this. You have this one, that one. You have that one. Okay,
Yeah, there you go. There's your carry. Yeah, you mean you're not carrying? You don't have a rig with 10 knives? I mean,
What are you, not FMA?
what do you mean? You need 2 karambits in the back, and you got 10, 10
Yeah.
knives, and I'm gonna get squashed for this one because there's a system that I would. I better shut up while I'm ahead before I get death threats at me. But anyway, yeah, I want to thank you guys again. This was wonderful. I hope we didn't disturb your guys' personal life that much or keep you too long. But again, I want to thank you so much, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Based on the comments, I think the audience when I'm reading here was nothing but positive comments and accolades. So I think this was a plus. So, but at any rate, I want to thank you guys, and obviously I'll be seeing you guys either in the group and Guro Viko. I'll be seeing you actually pretty soon for training. So, and all that. But again, you guys take care and have a good one.
Thanks, Dean.
Absolutely,
You guys.
absolutely.
Thanks, Dean.
Anytime.
Hey, Viko, take care.
Ingat. All you. I'll call you.
Let's get together soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ingat.
Bye, guys. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Shout out to all the friends, students.
Absolutely. All right. So that was in the books. Next. Who is next? Oh my gosh, I gotta look at, you know what? I don't even know. Let me see. Next week, who do we have? Potentially Mark Wiley. I need to touch base with him and just make sure we're still a go. But Mark Wiley is slated. And next, actually a week from today, the women's group. I'm having 3 women. We're gonna go over women's self-defense. So I got 3 coming on. So again, that'll be kind of more theme oriented. So that's what we've done. And all that. So thank you for all those who watched, commented, and submitted questions. And again, if you have not already, hit subscribe to FMA Discussion, where you can see this episode and other great ones. And hit that like button if you watched any part of this. I thought those guys did a great job. And until next time, thank you all for watching.